सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। वासुदेवेन्द्रयोगीन्द्रं नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुं मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते। On the page 11, we saw Etat sadhana chatushtayam. This is the fourfold qualification. Tatah tattvavivekasya adhikarana bhavati. Thereafter, consequently, on account of acquiring these fourfold qualifications, and as we discussed yesterday, these qualifications are within us. Viveka, Vairagya, all of these are there within us, and we have to cultivate them. Adhikarana bhavanti. Thus, a person or people become the adhikaris, they become the qualified persons. Meaning that the potential of qualification is there in everyone. And so it is not that this viveka or vairagya we have to acquire from somewhere, it's there within us. And we also said that each one of us displays this viveka or discrimination, vairagya, dispassion, and all these qualities we do display. And in light of what we have discussed now, we have to cultivate them. That means adhikaritvam, the qualification is there, but we have to keep working on this qualification. So one of the commitments we should have is to keep working on this qualification of what we call sadhana chatushtaya. That shama, the tranquility of mind, dhamma, the self-control, titiksha, the endurance, shraddha, the trust, all of these things grow, and we have to constantly endeavor to see that these qualifications grow. Next question then was, Tattvavivekah kaha. Sir, you say that by gaining these qualifications, people become qualified for viveka, discrimination. Tattva, for the truth, so they become qualified for the discriminative knowledge of truth. What is Tattvavivekah? What's viveka or discrimination with reference to tattva, with reference to truth? As we said earlier, this question of discrimination or separation is there when two things are mixed up with each other such that we cannot at first sight separate them or see them distinctly. Like the water and milk are so intimately mixed with each other, they look one. So where there are two, there appears to be one. This is when it becomes necessary for us to look at it closely and recognize what is what. Like the actor putting on the costume of beggar, looks like it is one entity, but in fact two entities are involved there. And we need to know how an actor looks like, what his characteristics are, to separate the actor from the role or from the costume. So that we know this person as the person is. Otherwise, it is likely that we might mistreat him or treat him in a different way. So we should know things as it is. So, Tattvabodha, what is the discrimination with the reference to truth? Looks like the truth is mixed up with non-truth. And so the answer was given, Atma Satyam Tadanyat Saram Mithyayati Tattvabodha. Thus the discrimination with reference to truth is that Atma, the self, is Satyam, is truth. Tadanyat Saram, everything other than that is Mithya. So we were discussing this word Mithya last night. Mithya is translated apparent or unreal sometimes. So it's unreal, apparent appearance. A classical definition of Mithya is Yadasat Bhasmanam Tan Mithya. That which is not there but appears to be there is Mithya. Swapna Gajadivat, like the elephant, etc., that we see in the dream, they are not there and still they appear to be real. So while we are dreaming, the dream objects such as elephant, etc., are very real. Only when we wake up, then we recognize that they were not real. So what happens when we wake up? What happens with reference to a dream experience when we wake up is that we recognize that even though it all appeared to be real when I was dreaming, in fact, there is no reality. It was a projection. This is what I discover when I wake up. That is not my knowledge or understanding when I am dreaming. But when I wake up, this is what I discover. This is called Badha. The reality which was given to the dream when I was dreaming is now given up when I wake up. So from the standpoint of the waker, the dream is recognized to be false. So that is called Mithya. So understand that Mithya does not mean that it does not exist. Mithya does not mean that it is to be hated, or Mithya does not. Mithya just means that it does not have the absolute reality. It is real under certain conditions, just as the dream world is real under the conditions of dream. As Tattvabodha says, Swakale Satyavad Bhati Prabodhe Satya Sadbhaved. The dream appears to be real in its own time. That is to the dreamer, the dream is real. Prabodhe Sati. When we wake up, then we recognize it to be asat or non-existent, a projection. So thus, from the standpoint of the waker, dream is Mithya. So let's understand what Mithya is. Another example of Mithya that we're discussing again is that of this famous pot. And this is this is a statement from Chandogya Upanishad, where it said, Vacharambhanam vikaro namadhyam mritika ityeva satyam. Vikara, a modification, such as a pot, is Vacharambhanam, is only in the name. So this object which we call pot, what is the reality of this object pot? Upanishad says the reality of the object is nothing more than the word pot. That's all. There's nothing else here. Because the substance which is here, as we well know, is clay. So what I am holding in my hand, the weight that I am feeling is that of the clay. And the smell is of the clay. The taste also is of clay, the sound also is of clay, and everywhere there is nothing but clay. Take away the clay from this object called pot and nothing remains. Sometimes we ask, what is a pot? Answer is given, pot is equal to clay plus name and form. A pot is clay plus name and form. Okay, so then when we take away the clay, then this name and form should remain. If pot is equal to clay plus name and form, then remove that clay. What should remain? Name and form should remain. But nothing remains. So what is the reality of what we call name and form? There is no tangibility. There is no substance in name and form. It is a concept. You can say it is a projection of the mind. So the Vedantin will say that what is pot? Pot is nothing but clay upon which name and form is superimposed or projected. And therefore, the tangible reality of this object is only clay. What we call pot is an idea obtaining our own mind. So you can't say that. This is pot. You can fill water in that. It's useful. If pot and clay are the same, can you do the same thing with lump of clay? Can you fill water? Can you carry anything in that? You can't. How can you say that the pot is nothing but clay? But see, the earlier argument that pot serves a certain purpose which clay does not serve is accepted. But understand that the determination of the truth of a thing is not done based on its usefulness. It is done based on its reality. We accept that the pot is useful, but it has no reality apart from clay. It has no reality more than clay. It has no reality apart from clay, because take away the clay and no such thing as pot remains. Therefore, what is pot? It is mithya. What is clay? It is satyam. So with reference to the example of pot, clay or the clay is satyam. It is truth. And pot, which is name and form, is mithya. It is superimposition. It is a projection. Call it projection, call it superimposition, call it appearance. You can say that the clay appears as pot. You can say that the idea of the pot, the name and form, in fact, is a superimposition upon clay. Because the substance here is clay. Is there a substance corresponding to the word pot? In this object, there is a substance corresponding to the word clay. This substance is there, a tangible substance. But is there a substance corresponding to the word pot? There is no substance here corresponding to the word pot, which means the word pot is there, but substance is not there. See, word clay is there and there is substance corresponding to that. But word pot is there is no substance corresponding to the word pot, because, as we said, take away the clay from this object and nothing remains, and therefore there is no tangible substance corresponding to the word pot. Now we have a very peculiar situation. We have a word but no corresponding substance. As far as clay is concerned, we have the word clay and corresponding substance. But as far as pot is concerned, there is the word pot but no corresponding substance. So when there is a word but no corresponding substance, is mithya. So it says, Vacharambhanam vikaro namadhayam, what is called pot has no reality more than the word pot, because there is no substance corresponding to that word. Oh, look, this sounds very intellectual, Swami, that's okay, that's mithya. So what does it mean in our life? In our life, what it means is that we should know what satyam or the truth is, and so that we can deal with things accordingly. As far as the goldsmith is concerned, when we take to a goldsmith some ornaments for selling, all that he weighs is only gold, and he has no concern at all with reference to the form or the shape of the ornament at all. What he sees is gold. So also, what we should see is the substance. So, a goldsmith would see that this is gold appearing in different forms. So, what is the perception of the ornaments? It is gold appearing in different forms. Not forms possessing gold, but gold possessing forms. That's all. It is simply a shift. When I look at the ornament, what is important about ornament? People quarrel about the form, about the design, about the shape, and that is what becomes very important. Little girls, they quarrel with their moms. When they are getting ready for going to a wedding party or something, and mom is dressing them up, and mom says, okay, wear this ornament. No, I don't want, I want that one. But this is also gold, that is also gold. But then for the child, it is different. Because the important is the form, appearance, and not the substance. Thus it is possible that we can lose sight of substance when undue importance is given to the appearance. It can happen. Therefore, all that is said here is that we should know that this substance is clay appearing as a part. So at some point in time, Swami proposed that rather than calling this a clay pot, we should call it potty clay, instead of calling clay pot. See, when we use the expression clay pot, it looks like pot is a substantive and clay is the adjective. Is it? First is adjective, then substantive. When you say, for example, orange cloth, then cloth is the substantive, orange is the adjective. So this cloth is qualified by the color orange. Orange cloth is right. When it's a clay pot, then it looks as though the clay is adjective and pot is substantive. Pot is a real thing and characterized by, so qualified by clay. But that's not right. So even the use of the expression clay pot creates certain, these words have a very powerful impact upon us. And words create corresponding concepts in our mind. So when we use the expression clay pot, it creates the impression of mind that pot is a substance and clay is the adjective. So what should really be said is potty clay. When we say that, it's very clear that clay is a substance and pot is an adjective. Pot is a qualification. If you are clear, it doesn't matter what you say, as long as there is clarity that this substance is clay. And it appears as a pot. What we call pot is an appearance of clay. Pot puts on the costume of clay. Clay puts on the costume of the name and form and appears as pot. And substance is clay. So what does it mean? It means this, that this name and form is a vehicle. Name and form is a costume for the clay. And so also when you say Atma Satyam Tadanyat Sarvam Mithya, Atma self alone is real, everything else is mithya, meaning everything else is an appearance like a costume, name and form. So when we look at our own self, who am I? I also have a name and a form. I have a name, so and so, and I have a form corresponding to that name. So what is reality here? Atma Satyam. It looks as though that the body possesses consciousness, and therefore body is real and the conscious body. Body seems to be real and consciousness seems to be the qualification. But that's not so. What should we say? Bodily consciousness or whatever, like potty clay. And similarly also, so bodily, not bodily, but so consciousness, qualified by body. The body is not the substance, that consciousness is substance. And this body, the name and form, is the qualifications of the consciousness. As Swami Vivekananda said that it is not that the body possesses consciousness, as a science would make us believe, it is consciousness that possesses the body. A shift in our focus, in our understanding. This is all what Vedanta seeks us to do. What is important? When you look at the ornament, what is important? It is gold that is important. All right, the names and forms have a certain use. It is true that the bangle is worn in a hand and the earring in the ear and so forth. That's okay. But still, the substance remains gold. Similarly, the substance is Atma. Atma or self is substance. Everything else is mithya, everything else is appearance. Whose appearance? Appearance of Atma. So self alone is truth, everything else is the appearance of the self. Tadanyatsaram mithyayati. So this is what we call discrimination, separation of satya and mithya. Like in case of this part, discrimination between the clay and the name and form. So in this part, there is a changing aspect and there is a changeless aspect. The name and form is subject to change. If the part drops down from a hand, it may break into pieces, then it will no more be called part. The name has changed, we may call it by a different name, like pieces. The form has changed. But the fact that it is clay, it remains unchanged. Those pieces can be further broken down, and you may call them pebbles. The name has changed, the form also has changed, but the fact that it is clay, that still remains changeless. So Satya and Mithya. In case of the part also, Satya and Mithya. What is changing is Mithya, what does not change is Satyam. This changing and changeless, both of them come together and they appear as one. Therefore it is necessary that in our mind we separate them. The separation takes place only in our mind. There is no physical separation required. It is not that we have to break the pot into pieces and then make a powder to know that it is clay. We can know that it is clay even when it is in the form of the pot, if that separation takes place in our mind. So therefore, Viveka means that separation, and that's the whole idea here, the separation takes place. In our own self also, I am the self, but in the self that I call myself, again there are two aspects, the changing aspect and the changeless aspect. With reference to object, I am the subject. The objects keep on changing, the subject does not change. And therefore, the subject I is changeless in correspondence to the objects which are changing. So when I look in one direction, the object of perception is one. Look in another direction, object of perception another one. Thus, what is perceived, the object keeps changing, the subject does not change. But in the subject also, there is some change taking place. Right now, I am a speaker. Then I may be a listener, then I may be a walker, then I may be whatever. And thus, in I also, the changes seem to take place. So then we need to further separate in I also what is the changing part and what is the changeless part. To enable us to do that separation, knowing fully well that what is changeless alone is true, and changing is apparent, it is incidental. In case of the part, the clay is inherent and the part or name and form is incidental. Incidental is that which is subject to coming and going. Incidental, it does not matter whether it is there or not. Inherent is that which really matters. And so, the clay is inherent, the part is incidental. So, Satyam is inherent, Mithya is incidental. In case of our own self also, this is what Tattvabodha wants to draw our attention to. That in our own self also, what is the truth? Truth must be that which is inherent, which does not change, and incidental is not the truth, is appearance. So in our own self also, inasmuch as there is a change taking place, that now I am a doer, karta, then I am enjoyer, bhokta, then I am a speaker, vakta, then I am a seer, drashta, then I am a hearer, shrota, then I am a thinker, manta, then I am a knower, vijnata. And so the I also seems to keep on changing. Thus it is necessary to separate here also the changing aspect and separate the changeless from the changing. Then alone we know what is the truth about ourselves. So what does it matter? Suppose we don't know the truth about ourselves, so what? Does it matter? It matters. If I do not know the truth about myself, then I take myself to be what I am not. And therefore I take myself to be a speaker, or a hearer, or a doer, or an enjoyer, or a seer, or a thinker, or a father, or a mother, or husband, or wife, or son, or daughter. But that's what I am, Swami. What's wrong with that? That is what I am. So person, I am a husband, I am a wife, I am son, I am daughter, I am father, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong in it. But these conclusions about ourselves are the causes of all our unhappiness. If I really was father, then it's quite all right for me to say that I am father. If I really was mother, then it's quite all right to say I am mother, nothing wrong in it. But father is incidental, mother is incidental. Basically, I am a person. Wife is incidental. Basically, she is a person. Husband also incidental, is a relative. Relative to wife, this person is husband. Relative to husband, this person is wife. These are roles, these are incidental, inherently they are persons. And if this person thinks that he is husband only, if that is identification, then there are always going to be problems. There are always going to be anxieties. There are always going to be problems. Like Swami says, this fellow is a father. Father means what? Father is with reference to the son or daughter. Think of the son, think of the daughter, Swami, how is the daughter? Swamiji, I don't know. She's in Hawaii someplace. What happened? She's wearing some very funny clothes and she's following somebody, some rock star, So apparently these rock stars also have a large following. Wherever they go, people follow them. And they camp there. In fact, there is no arrangement for them. That fellow doesn't care for them. These people follow him. Wherever they go, then they camp and live in a lot of hardship actually. But that's what they do. And whatever kind of life they must be leading. So, moment this person thinks of his daughter, his blood pressure rises because he thinks of that, what all she must be doing. Swami, she doesn't study, doesn't do anything, this is all she does. And what kind of relationship she has, what kind of clothes she wears, what kind of food she eats, what all she does, and what she injects and thinks of that. And then his blood pressure rises. Father means blood pressure. Mother means blood pressure. Husband means blood pressure. And the wife also means blood pressure. And son also is blood pressure. And the daughter, everything is blood pressure. Really. If I think that I am son, there is blood pressure. Then I remember all the unfairness shown to me, which happens to my siblings, Swamiji, my father always preferred this. Everybody thinks that way. Everybody thinks that way. So understand that each one of these conclusions about myself is a source of some anxiety, tension, stress, and sorrow. Just think of it. Whenever you feel sad from now on, ask yourself, who is feeling sad? There will be answer, the wife is feeling sad. The husband is feeling sad. the father is feeling sad, the mother is feeling sad, the thinker is feeling sad, the speaker is feeling sad because I said something and then I realized I should not have said it. I said something and I hurt this person and then I felt so bad about it. So the speaker is feeling bad. Or somebody said something to me and I got hurt or insulted, the hearer is feeling bad. Who can feel somebody? Either hearer, thinker, speaker, talker, whatever. That alone can feel bad. The hurt and guilt can only be in some person who has this kind of abhimanam or this notion about oneself. So these various notions we entertain about ourselves because we have not separated the Satyam from Mithya. So Brihadaranyaka Upanishad said, Prananyeva pranana bhavati vadan vak pashyan chakshuhu shrunvan sotram manvano manaha. That this person calls himself a living being because of the prana. He is a breather with reference to prana. He is a speaker with reference to the organ of speech. He is a seer with reference to organ of seeing. He is a hearer with reference to organ of hearing. He is a thinker with reference to organ of thinking. Meaning that whenever I identify whatever aspect of my personality I identify with, that's the kind of notion or conclusion I have at that time, and that's all that I am. So we know ourselves all right, but the Upanishad says we know ourselves this incomplete knowledge. Akrusno hi saha, he is incomplete because he knows only himself partially, a part of it. When I look upon myself as a speaker or a thinker or a hearer, I know only a fraction of myself, not the total I that I am. And every role is subject to either hurt or guilt. If I am a thinker, I can be hurt or I can be guilty. Swami, what thoughts are coming in my mind? People feel very sad because bad thoughts are coming. So who is sad? The thinker is sad. Who can be hurt? As I said, only an individual can be hurt. This is called abhimanam, the identification which brings about these notions about ourselves. And sadness or sorrow or unhappiness can only be in this individual who has a given notion. It will be a good exercise. From now on, whenever you feel sad or unhappy or hurt, ask this question, who is hurt? There will be answer. Wife is hurt, husband is hurt, son, daughter, speaker, hearer. Atma can never be hurt, but Atma, the self, in a role, one or the other role, alone can be hurt. Inasmuch as looking upon myself as an individual, looking upon entertaining these notions about myself, and looking upon myself as a role. That is why all the problems of the role become my problems. If the actor thinks that he is a real beggar, forgets his identity, and takes himself to a beggar, then all the problems of the beggar become his problems. Then in the play also, suppose he forgets that he is actor. Then whoever tells him something, he is telling him. Imagine that in a play, actor is supposed to perform the role of a beggar according to certain script. And he is sitting on the sidewalk and somebody is walking by and this fellow is begging and that fellow tells him something. That's what people do. Sometimes they just get irritated, at these people. Because beggars also have a knack of irritating people. Because they will not leave you unless they create in you a sense of helplessness and wretchedness, and then you ultimately give him something. You throw a coin at him. But somebody can throw some bad word also at him if he's irritated. As long as the beggar is clear that I am an actor, so long doesn't matter what he says, because this is all part of the role. But in case he forgets that he is an actor, and he takes himself to a real beggar, then what is told is told to him. And then he gets upset, he gets irritated, he can also say something, and a fight can ensue. So understand that the problems all belong at the level of the individual, at the level of the role. And therefore, it is so important to separate the actor from the role, so important to separate the self from the non-self, so important to separate the Satyam from Mithya, because both of them are together. Wherever Mithya is, there Satya will be there. Wherever the role is, there the actor is always there, because the role cannot be without the actor. Thus, in case of that beggar is Mithya, actor is Satyam. Actor is real, beggar is incidental, because then he can be a king also, he can be something else also. As long as very clear that I am the actor, so long he can play his roles, merrily he can play the roles without getting affected and enjoy the roles. Even though it may be a role of a beggar, actor can enjoy, as long as there is a clarity or awareness of his true identity. In our case also, this is necessary to separate the grain chaff from the grain, the Satya from Mithya, the real from the unreal, the person from the personality, the self from the non-self. That separation is important, is necessary. That separation is not a physical separation. It's not that we can separate the self from non-self physically. We cannot and we don't have to. Just as even though the actor is wearing the costume of beggar, we can recognize him. And then it doesn't matter what costume he wears. We don't have to remove the costume as long as you know the basic characteristics of the actor. And so also, when that separation takes place in our mind, then it doesn't matter what costume we are wearing. So, this kind of separation, this Tattvabodha helps us to do. This is called Atma Anatma Vivekaha, the separation of the self from the non-self, or Satya Mithya Vivekaha, separation of what is true from what is false, or what is real from the unreal. So here the statement is Atma Satyam, the self is truth. So the next question that arises, and Tat Sarvam Anyat Sarvam Mithya. So naturally the question arises, you say that Atma, the self is true. So then on the page 12 now, the next question occurs. Atma kaha. What is Atma? Who is Atma? Or what's the nature of Atma? What's the nature of self? Of course, the translation is, who am I? Because Atma means I. You can say, who am I? Or, what's the nature of the self? Then the answer is given. That's also a nice passage, worth remembering. Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharirad Vyatiriktaha Panchakoshatitaha Panchakoshatita Sanna Avasthatraya Sakshi Satchidananda Swarupa Sanna Yastishtave Sa Atma. Atma kaha. Who is the self? Which means that what is the inherent nature of myself? This is a question. What is it? Who am I? What is the inherent nature of myself? What is inherent in me? What is non-negatable in me? We said, what is Satyam? Abadhitam Satyam, that which cannot be negated. Whatever can be negated in me, that I am not, that is incidental. Meaning that whatever I can do without, that is incidental. That without which I cannot be what I am, that is inherent. In place of this pot, the clay can be without the name and form. So clay is inherent. Similarly also, what is inherent about I? What is the changeless I? So separating of the changing, incidental things, what is that remains which is inherent, which is changeless? So the answer given, Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharirat Vyatiriktaha. Vyatiriktaha, one who is different or distinct from Sharirat, from the body. Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharirat, Vyatiriktaha. See, this Tattvabodha explains to us all the basic terms and all the basic concepts involved in Vedanta. So when this becomes clear, then other texts also will become very clear. Sthula means gross, Sukshma means subtle, Karana means causal. Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira. Sharira means the body. Vyatiriktaha, one is distinct. Who is the self? The one who is distinct from the gross, the subtle, and the causal bodies. Apparently, we have three bodies: the gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body. But who is the self? The indweller in the body. Just as the one who dwells in the house is different from the house, and so also this body is the dwelling place. The self is the indweller, different from the dwelling, which is the body. So he said here, Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharirat Vyatiriktaha, separate from the gross, subtle, and causal bodies. So we are told, Atma Satyam Tadanyas Sarvam Mithya. And so this Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharir is not Atma, because Atma, the self, is distinct from that. So thus separating the actor from the costume. That means that the Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira, the gross, subtle causal body is comparable to a costume that an actor puts on. Who is the actor here? Atma, the self, is actor, wearing the costume of the gross, subtle, and causal bodies. So understand that the role is because the actor is, but actor is because the actor is. That beggar totally depends upon the actor for it to be. But the actor does not depend upon the beggar. Actor is the independent reality. Beggar is the dependent reality. So dependent reality is called mithya, is called incidental, is called projection. Because beggar is a projection upon the actor, or beggar is the incidental upon actor. Beggar is the role of the actor, or the costume of the actor, whatever words you use. So similarly also here, there is something inherent and incidental. So we are told, the Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira, the gross, subtle and causal bodies, they are comparable to the costume that Atma is wearing as though. And just as the actor is distinct from the beggar or the costume, so also Atma is distinct from this costume of the gross, subtle and causal bodies. So Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharirat, Vyatirikta, one definition. Then it says, Panchakosha Atitaha. Panchakosha Atitaha, who is beyond the five sheets. That they will explain. So here is the word sheath or kosha. So we'll understand when we come to that discussion. But here an overview is given. Panchakosha Atitaha, the self is beyond the five sheets. So there are different ways of looking at this self and the non-self. Different way of looking at the non-self. Sometimes we say person and personality. These terms also we use. Self and non-self, or person and personality. Person is consciousness, personality is a costume. This costume can be looked upon in different ways. One way of looking at the costume or personality is the three bodies, gross, subtle and causal bodies. Another way of looking at the costume or the personality is the five sheets, which amounts to the same thing, five sheets. Why are so many things said here? Because in different Upanishads or different places in Vedanta, the Atma Anatma Viveka or description is between self and non-self is done in different ways. So it's all included here. So Tattvabodha here gives us the different prakriyas or different methods. It's a collection or a compilation of what is found in different places. So Panchakosha Atitaha, The self is beyond the five sheets. This Panchakosha or five sheets is what we find in the Taittiriya Upanishad. And so it is included here. Then it's Avasthatraya Sakshi, yet another thing. Avasthatraya Sakshi is the Sakshi, the witness of the Avasthatra, the three states of experience: the waking, the dream, the deep sleep. This comes from the Mandukya Upanishad. In Mandukya Upanishad, we find the self being distinguished from the three states of awareness. In Taittiriya Upanishad, we find the self being distinguished from the five sheets. And therefore, this is a compilation from all different places in the Upanishads. So the self is Sthula Sukshma Karana Shariyat Vitirikta, distinct from the gross, subtle and causal bodies. Panchakosha Atitaha, the one that transcends the five sheets. Avasthatraya Sakshi, one who is the Sakshi or witness of the three states. Basically, these three terms tell us what self is not. That Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharira, the three bodies, I am not. Panchakosha, five sheets, I am not. Avasthatraya, the three states, I am not. But I am not. This is what the I is. What's the inherent? Satchidananda Swarupa. Of the nature of Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat means existence, Chit means awareness or consciousness, Ananda means happiness or fullness. The self is the nature of existence, awareness, fullness. Satchidananda Swarupa San Yas Tishtati Saha Atma. So one who obtains as Satchidananda, different from the three bodies, the five sheets, and witness of the three states, himself is Satchit Ananda, that is the self. So this definition is given here. And now, in subsequent passages, the author will now explain each term obtaining in this passage. So, first expression is Sthula Sukshma Karana Sharirat Vyatiriktaha, distinct from the gross, subtle and causal bodies. So naturally, the next question is Sthula Shariram Kim. What is Sthula? Sthula means gross. This is what? And Sukshma means subtle. So what is this gross and what is subtle? Just to understand, so whatever can be objectified by the organs of perception is called gross. Whatever we can objectify by the five organs of perception is called gross. So the sounds and the words that we hear, gross. The various things that we touch, gross. The various colors and forms that we see, gross. Various tastes, gross. Various smells, gross. So the whole universe consisting of these five objects, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. The universe consists of the sound, taste, colors, smells, taste. It is gross. And even our body also is included as gross, because the body also can be objectified by the sense organs. So, Sthula Shariram. What is the gross body? Gross means that which can be objectified by the sense organs. Subtle is that which cannot be objectified by the sense organs. That will be the next one. So what is the gross body? Then the explanation is given here. Panchikrita Panchamahabhutaihi Kritam Satkarmajanyam Sukhadukhadi Bhogayatanam Shariram Asti Jayate Vardhate Viparinamate Apakshiyate Vinashyate Iti Shadvikaravata Etata Sthula Shariram. What's the gross body? Very beautiful definition. So we understand what we are. So Vedanta gives a very beautiful understanding of our own personality. So this gross body, subtle body, causal body form the personality. The 5 sheets form the personality, so that we can understand ourselves well. This is our gross body. What we perceive is the gross body. So first is, gross body is the Panchikrita Panchamahabhutai Kritam. So that is made up of the 5 gross elements. Now this Panchikrita, this also we will understand later on. Panchamahabhuta, the 5 great elements. So this is the model that Upanishads have used of 5 great elements. What are they? Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi. Space, air, fire, water, earth. These also come from Taittiriya Upanishad. Tasmadva etasmad atmanah akasha sambhutah. Akashad vayuhu, vayuhu agnihi, agnihi apaha, adbyah prithvi. So the 5 element model is found in other Upanishads also, very clearly in the Taittiriya Upanishad, in other Upanishads as well. So they look upon this universe as made up of 5 elements. So what any substance is made up of 5 elements. We can see, and these 5 elements will explain later on also. But just right now we can say that everything is made up of the 5 elements: the space, air, fire, water and earth. We will be told that each of these elements has its distinct quality. Like earth is characterized by the quality of smell. The water characterized by the quality of taste. Fire characterized by the quality of fire, the form and color. Air characterized by the quality of touch. And space characterized by the quality of sound. So sound is a distinct quality of space. Touch is a distinct quality of air. Color is a distinct quality of fire. Taste is a distinct quality of water. And smell is the distinct quality of element earth. This flower in my hand, so it has smell, that means there is earth in there. Some smell is always there. Even if you say there is no smell in the flower, some smell everything always has. It doesn't have the fragrance like a rose or etc. We may say, but some smell it always has. That is earth. And then it has a taste also. If I eat this petal, taste, that is water. It has color, that is fire. It has very soft, smooth touch, that is air. Occupies space, and that is element space. Therefore, all the 5 elements are present in this object called flower. And similarly, the case with everything, like this pot in my hand also. This pot also has a smell. It has a taste. It has a color, it has a touch, and it makes sound also. So that's that you do. Everything makes sound. This flower doesn't seem to make sound. That it does. That also makes sound. And so that is element air. That's element space. This also makes sound. So in a text called Panchadashi, this is nicely demonstrated by the author. How these 5 things are everywhere. He would take water for example. So when the water flows, how it makes sounds. And how the water has touch, how the water has color. With air also. When the air blows, it makes sound. So that is element space, and the air itself has touch, and so forth. Thus, everything that we know is made up of 5 elements. So, 5, we've been told that these elements have 2 states. When the elements are first created, they are in what we call subtle state, which means we cannot perceive them through organs of perception. Subsequently, the tamas aspect of the elements, they underwent combinations called panchikaranam. That is the 5-fold combination that we will discuss later, which will come. And that is how the elements within a subtle state, they become gross, they become tangible, they become perceptible to the organs of perception. So the world that we see is a product of the five elements in their gross state. Our body also is a product of the five elements in their grossified state. So Panchikaranam, grossification. So tell me, what's the difference between this pot and this body? What's the difference? Swami, how can you? The big difference. This body is something else and pot is something. That's true. This is my body. Very beautiful body. That's fine. But as far as Tattva is concerned, if you don't become emotional, if you just remain very objective, dispassionate, that is where dispassion is required. When it comes to this body, then I have altogether a different feeling. When it comes to pot, it's a different thing. But the pot is made up of five elements, and so also what we call the gross body also is made up of five elements, because it makes sounds, it can be touched, it has a color and shape, it has taste, it has smell, and therefore this body also is a product of five elements, just as the pot is, just as the flower is, just as the table is. So can you say that this body is technically different from a pot? Emotionally very different. Usefully also very different, no doubt about that. But as far as Tattva is concerned, as far as the truth is concerned, in essence, is this body essentially different from a pot or a flower or a table? It is not. Just as those objects are made of five gross elements, so also this body. And therefore, technically speaking, or essentially, this body falls in the same category as a pot. For a Vedantin, or for anybody, for any dispassionate or objective person, the body and the pot occupy the same degree of reality, inasmuch as both of them are products of the five gross elements. Is pot this myself? Am I this pot? No. This flower, am I the flower? No. Am I the microphone? No. Am I the table? No. So all these objects that are made of five elements have no difficulty in saying, I am not a pot, I am not a flower, I am not a table. No difficulty at all. I am very objective, dispassionate with reference to pot, and therefore very clearly I can say, I am not the pot. When it comes to this body, then somehow that dispassion goes away. The objectivity goes away, and I start calling this body as I. So that is where the problem begins. Therefore, in the opening of 13th chapter in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Idam shariram kaunteya kshetram iti abhidhyate. Hey Kaunteya, hey Arjuna, this body is kshetra. This body is an object of your knowledge. Edadyo vetitam prahu kshetrajna iti tadvidah. The wise people say that the one who is aware of the body is the self. So Atma Satyam. This body is incidental. It is a costume. It is part of the personality. It is incidental. It has essentially the same kind of reality that a pot has. Because pot can be objectified by me. The pot is an object of my perception, object of my awareness, and so also body is the object of my awareness. And just as I do not measure myself by a pot, just because the pot is bigger, I don't become big. Pot is small, I don't become small. Pot is broken, I don't break. Pot is yours, I don't become yours. If I can be equally objective with reference to body, that body is big, small, fat, lean, tall, short, male, female, it's fine, wonderful. Enjoy the body, but I am not the body. It's not necessary for me to say I am the body. We say it somehow. And this is habitual, meaning that we say this from all the time that we know. Aham mama iti naisargiko koyam loka vyavahara. It is naisargika, it is natural to take this body to be myself, and that is where this viveka or the separation becomes necessary. The two things are lumped together, two things are mixed, the body and the self. where body is not self, because body is the object of my awareness. Just as thought also is the object of awareness. And if I can create the same distance that I have with the pot, with my body, but Swami, how can I do that? The pot is away. Distance is not in terms of space. Distance is in terms of understanding. How there is a distance in understanding, I am not the pot. If similarly I can have the understanding, I am not the body, I am distinct from the body, then that will be the true knowledge of the self. If I take the body to be myself, that means that I and body both are mixed up together. There are two, and then I have the notion of there is one. So, what is this gross body? Panchikrita, Panchamahabhutaihi kritam, that which is created from the 5 elements in the grossified state. It is gross body like any other object which is also gross, made of 5 elements, and therefore it cannot be I. So these various qualifications of the body are given to help us see this fact that I is different from the body. The self is not created. Shariram is kritam. It is made of, is created. Atma is uncreated. It ever is. Existence or to be is its nature. Whereas body is now there and later on it is not there. Self is that which is always there. We will continue our discussion in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Vadarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.